Would you like to know the pros and the cons of being a private investigator? If you said yes, then this video is for you. Welcome to the PI Guy, tips, tricks, and advice for professional private investigators just like you. My name is John Morris. I am a licensed professional private investigator in Colorado. Taryn B94 asked me several questions recently, and one of them was, in your opinion, what are the pros and the cons in the PI field? Great question, and thanks for asking, Taryn. As with any job, as with any profession, and as with any business you may be looking at getting into, the private investigations profession definitely has some huge pros and some huge cons to it. Let's get the negative stuff out of the way right away, and let's take a look at the cons first. Con number one is the lack of training. Now, obviously, there are a lot of training opportunities out there today. For instance, right here on the PI Guy channel, and I have also made some full-length training courses. I have authored multiple books to help new private investigators get started. But there really is no formal training out there like there is for paralegals and other professionals in the legal services business. You can get some great training also from your state PI association, and I have covered that topic in detail in past videos on this channel. Not being able to prove your knowledge and show that you're qualified through an educational institute does present many challenges for private investigators and ranks up there pretty high on the list of cons to being a PI. Another con, in my humble opinion, is the hours that you have to work. This varies greatly from PI to PI, I am sure, but in most cases this is not a 9-to-5 job. I have days I am up at 4 a.m. working on things, and I have nights that I am working until 10 p.m. Now, for me, it has gotten better over the years as I have grown my business, and I can generally set my hours. But when I first opened my private investigator business, this wasn't the case. I always was at the beckoning call of my clients, and even today, that still is the case at times. Investment in equipment was also a con for me early on in my private investigations career. I didn't have to spend a lot. It wasn't in the thousands, but I did have to invest a bit to get started, and I had to continue to invest in equipment as I grew the business. Investing financially in your business has to be done wisely. It is way too easy to just be out there buying the latest and the greatest spy gadgets and PI gear and forgetting about the bottom line and the ROI. When I started, I had one client, one customer, only one avenue of revenue. This one client primarily did workers' comp surveillance investigations, so I had to invest in some startup equipment right away. I needed a good quality, durable camera for surveillance. I also needed a way to get that video off the camera with the date and timestamp on it and be able to edit out the junk and make one video for all of the surveillance video on a single case. I also had to invest in software to prepare my reports, and I needed a good quality CD burner. I know this sounds ancient, but back then the norm was to send clients a CD with a video on it. There simply was no thing called high-speed internet back in the days. Hard to imagine, right? Then there was the investment in my vehicle, getting tinting installed and making sure it was mechanically sound and ready for the rigors of surveillance. Now, all of this may not seem like much, but it was an investment I had to make with the full knowledge that I may not get much work out of the client to begin with. That leads us to the next con of being a PI. Now, I know this all sounds doom and gloom so far, but wait, hang on. We will get to the perks, the pros, the big reasons that make being a private investigator so worth it in just a moment. Now, as I said, when I started, I had one client. That's right. I could count my entire client base on one, finger. That was a bit scary, folks. All of the eggs in one basket, and I didn't know how big that basket was, how sturdy that basket was, or how long that basket would last. But I had my first client, and I was tickled pink, folks. A lack of resources is another huge con to getting into the business too, folks. When I say resources, I mean things like report templates, contract templates, investigation tracking systems, and the like. There was, and many times there still are, huge challenges to getting these resources. This one con was probably the biggest deterrent to me striking it out on my own and going after more clients. I simply had no tools to help me do it in a manner that I knew I would be successful. So I just kept working for that one client and working on a plan for the future, be it very slow planning process. That is why, folks, this channel, the PI Guy, exists. because of all of the cons, the obstacles, and the challenges I had with little to no resources out there. I wanted to make sure I could pay it forward and help out professional private investigators just like you. That is also why I wrote these books for new PIs, like Business Basics for Private Investigators. I also have an accompanying full-length training course on this subject over at Udemy, and I will leave a link for both the book and the course down below. I also authored Marketing Basics for Private Investigators and Sales Basics for Private Investigators. Now, these 3 books are actually a series, but you don't have to get them all at once if you don't need them. I tried to make the series modular, so to speak, so if you have a good business already set up, then the Business Basics may be too basic for you. Now hang on, that is not all. I also authored Contracts for Private Investigators. This book, folks, will walk you through the entire process of writing your very own contract for your PI business. One of the biggest challenges a new PI has is having a rock-solid contract to enter into when a client hires them. A good contract is a must, and this book, like I said, walks you through writing your own contract and provides sample contracts right inside the book and a full explanation of every section of the contract. But what about how to manage all of your cases? How do you do that? Well, there are some great case management software packages out there, but if you are just getting started or if you have a small caseload, then that may be too much for you. That is also why I created the Private Investigator's Case Management Journal, but it is way more than a journal, folks. This journal includes a customer contact section where you can track all of your clients' contact information like phone numbers, emails, and addresses. It also has a mileage record section to track your vehicle mileage for charging your clients and tax purposes. And it includes case information log sheets where you can keep track of notes for each of your cases. I also included annual calendars, a witness statement form template, a client intake form template, sample incident investigation form, and a sample accident investigation form, and more. Okay, enough of the shameless plug for my books, folks. I will leave links below for each of these in case you are interested. Now, before we go on to the pros of being a private investigator, let's look at one more huge con. This one ties in with the lack of clients to begin with, and it is kind of a twofold or maybe even a threefold con. When I got started, I had that one client, so I had all the cases I wanted that my one client would send to me. A lack of work is very unnerving at times when you get started. I would go with a case here and a case there, and then all of a sudden I would get slammed with 3, 5, 7 or more cases all at once, then back to a case here and a case there. This led to the second part of this con, and that was having to schedule my time to be as productive as possible. I had to make sure I had time to do all of the surveillance, then pull and edit the video and write the reports and get it all sent to the client and take care of business needs such as accounting and other duties that I had. Doing all of this can lead to burnout if your busy times stay busy for long periods. Then when it slows down, you are like, whoa, wait a minute, what happened here? And then the sudden realization of cash flow hits you. Okay, here is one of the biggest secrets I can give you, folks. Cash flow, or the lack thereof, combined with poor cash flow planning, is probably the #1 killer for all PI businesses that never made it. Many a good PI has come and many a good PI have gone, and many times their demise was due to failure to plan for the future. They got busy, spent all the money, and then when it slowed down, they had nothing to keep the ship afloat. If you learn nothing else from this video, this is probably the biggest takeaway that you can have. Now let's be done with the doom and the gloom. There are so many wonderful pros to being a PI, folks. If you take the cons to heart but plan to overcome them with the pros, you can be successful in this business. A huge pro to this business is the lack of barriers to entry. Unlike many professions out there, you do not need 2, 4, 6, 8 or more years of education to become a PI. Now, you may have to get a PI license to become a PI, but that is relatively easy in most states, especially compared to years and years of going to school. Just about anyone can become a PI today if you have the desire to do what it takes to get your license and take advantage of the training resources that present themselves to you and get out there and hustle a bit. I know you can do it. The possibilities as a PI are endless too, folks. I started out doing surveillance day in and day out, 6 days a week, but because I took advantage of the training opportunities that presented themselves to me, like books, magazines, and my state PI association, I quickly excelled into other investigative areas. Now my firm does criminal defense investigations, accident investigations, fraud investigations, witness interviews, process serving, TSCM bug sweeps, and more. And you know what? I have zero formal education in the legal or PI industry. I went to school for computer programming and radio broadcast and management. True story, folks. It was those resources that I took advantage of that got me to where I am today. Now another huge pro is scheduling my time. You know what? It is my business and I can schedule my time as I see fit. Now obviously when I started this was a little less flexible, but it still had some flex in it. And even today there are times I am at the mercy of my clients. But for the most part, my time is my time and I can schedule it as I see fit to work best for me personally and for my business professionally. This flexibility also allows me to scale my business as I need. When personal things come up that require more of my time, I simply can take on fewer cases. And when time frees up, I can take on more cases. Being able to say no to a client is a major pro to me as well, folks. I don't have to take every case that comes across my desk. I don't have to work with every client that calls my phone. I get to pick and choose what works best for me. Now you want to be careful here. If you turn down too many jobs, you may find yourself with no jobs to turn down or accept for that matter. But I have the flexibility to accept, decline, or refer out jobs I can't do or do not want to do. Yesterday I actually did that. I had a client contact me with 2 jobs. I looked at my schedule and I was pretty much at the limits for myself bandwidth wise. I wanted to make sure the client was taken care of, but I didn't have the time to even sub out the work. So I referred them over to another great professional that I knew could take on the work, get the work done correctly, and make me look like a hero for referring it out. It was a win-win all around for all involved. Money, money, money. The money is a big pro to being a PI too, folks. I know if you're just getting started, you're probably like, what, John? But once you get established and once you learn how to properly cash flow your business and control your expenses, the money can be pretty good. Now, I am not saying you will be a millionaire in a year or 2 or 3 or ever, but running a successful PI business can afford you a decent income for sure, and it beats working for other people. And that is huge to me, folks. Being my own boss, not working for anyone else, being the shot caller in my business and life means a great deal. Now, obviously, I work for my clients, but that relationship is structured through negotiation with the client, the parameters set in my contract, and the expectations that I set for the investigation with the client up front. To me, folks, being a PI, having my own private investigations business simply is not a job. I never get up in the morning and feel like I have to drag myself out of bed and off to work. I simply love what I do, and I never ever look at it as a job. It is just what I do. Hey, here are 2 more videos that I made just for you folks. Remember folks, stay safe out there.